It's Texas OU weekend once again, and it's time for freewheeling, free spending, boozing, and betting. And a whole lot of people will be spending their time in Dallas County Jail for the weekend. Thousands will be on hand here at the corner of Ackerd and Commerce later on this evening, preparing for the Texas OU game tomorrow afternoon. Many of the store owners downtown are boarding up their stores in hopes that they will eliminate some of the damage partially done on Texas OU weekend. One of the store owners said, well, he wasn't going to get any business, but he wasn't going to interfere with the tradition. The Department of Public Safety, the Dallas Police Department, the Sheriff's Office will all be ready to accommodate those who might be on hand to come to the Dallas County Jail. Last year, more than 300 were arrested. This year, they expect a little bit more than that. The DPS is bringing in an extra 75 men to help local law enforcement officers. The Sheriff's Department is readying the Old County Jail for those that might be on hand to spend the weekend there. And it's traditional, it's fun. But take some advice. Cool it like I am. Wear your hard hat and stay in out of the excitement. Chuck Carl Mayo, Channel 8 News, on the move.
The thing is, as in most other countries, a time comes when different groups do not get on very well together. For instance, take what happens in Northern Ireland, what happens with the French Canadians and the English-speaking Canadians, between the Walloons and Flemish in Belgium and so on. Such things are likely to arise. The thing to do is to get the leaders of the factions to be in communication with one another and to forestall any danger of conflict. So what has happened in Biafra could have happened in any other country. And the thing to do is to recognize differences and to make sure of the leaders coming together to preserve peace.
Well, I think probably the primary problem at this point is a matter of acquiring additional landfill sites and having those sites properly operated.
Is the problem major now, or you have some time, some leeway before it becomes a major problem?
I think probably that it has reached major proportions at this time. We have talked about the problem for the past several years, and I think that we have reached the point where it is a major problem, and we do need to find some solutions to this matter of solid waste disposal.
Are there any bad violations in the county at this time that you know of?
I have no personal knowledge of any violations. However, according to the State Department of Health, there are violations with many of the present sites operated by the county.
The crowds are beginning to gather here in Dallas at Commerce and Akron Streets for the annual Texas OU Weekend Bash. And bash it is, for usually there are several hundred merrymakers which end up spending part of their weekend in jail for anything from disturbing the peace to throwing bottles and mattresses out of hotel windows. For those offenders, the Old County Jail will be their hotel. Earlier in the day, some downtown store owners were boarding up their storefronts in hopes of escaping results of some of the over-enthusiastic revelers. Last year, more than 300 persons were arrested, slightly 200 less than in years previous. However, some police sources say they expect more arrests this year. The celebration is a tradition, which also opens the 2-week run of the State Fair. Tomorrow morning, a giant parade will open the exposition. Until then, the more than 700 law enforcement officers on duty till the early hours of the morning will have their hands and paddy wagons full. This is Carl Mayo, downtown Dallas, Channel 8 News.
It does require a lot of timing, but we have plenty of time to work on that. And basically, I think the offense is very simple, but I imagine it is hard to defense, and we work on it enough to keep our timing down.
Would you be interested in professional football?
Oh yes, sir. I hope I get a chance to play. I really do. I hope I get to play.
What have the professionals told you that your playing weight should be for the pros, the scouts?
They haven't said. They haven't said at all.
And you're what, 230 now?
Yes, sir.
You're just a growing boy, aren't you?
Well, I hope so.
It's always got kind of that extra atmosphere about it because of the great players that have played there before and the great players that play there now. It's a great thrill to play in the Cotton Bowl, and especially to play against Texas.
But you played as an Abilene Cooper rep there, didn't you, once?
Right. We played in the semifinals in Dallas against Richardson, and we had a good day, and I hope maybe we can get some sort of resemblance of that day against Texas this year.
What type of an attack are you going to mount against the Longhorns Saturday?
Well, we don't feel we can trick Texas by any means. We're going to stick to the things we know we can do. I don't feel you can be 100% running or 100% passing. You got to kind of balance it against Texas because they've got good players everywhere, and you got to kind of take what they'll give you, I guess.
Knowing Texas as well as you do and knowing they're a solid club, then your plans will be pre-planned and you probably won't have to alter them too much.
No, Texas doesn't try to fool you by stunts or changing their defenses. They've got too much confidence in their ability and their players and their system to change. It's just a matchup of our players against their players, I guess.
How do you like working with Joe Wiley in your backfield?
Joe's going to be a great player. He's had a good season so far, and he's learning. He thinks he's improving. He's got confidence in himself. We got confidence in him. He's going to be a great player.
How's your passing game coming along this year, Jack?
Well, we haven't thrown the ball well for a while, but this past week we've thrown the ball real well, and very encouraged by it, and getting kind of optimistic and starting to smile a little bit about it, I guess, and something I hadn't done in a while, and I think it's going to come out real well. I feel real good about it right now.
Phase 1 will be the actual demolition and the on-the-job training program. The second phase of it will be the actual construction of buildings within the ghetto, rundown area, and otherwise deplorable eyesores.
In the first phase, this will require that you hire people. Will they be paid salaries to demolish these buildings?
Yes, they will be given stipends as under the government programs for training purposes. And this will also, these buildings will be acquired from downtown from the city of Fort Worth and used actually the materials in the ghetto in the reconstruction effort. And that reconstruction effort also has a training program involved in it.
They are still exhibiting the apple and attempting to gain additional rights from men. Even claim they shouldn't be liberated so as to be equal with men. Ain't that silly? Whereas women have gone so far as to wave their apple at the officials of the State Fair of Texas, and wave the apple so well that they mesmerized officials set aside this entire building for women. Now therefore, we boneheads declare this women's building officially closed. This building is forever liberated from its woe, and henceforth all signs on and in this building shall read men's.
Give us our building, let us have a little bit of artistic expression.
But they say you don't need a building, you can do your work as well outside.
But we want to show the men how good we're doing.
But there's no men's building.
Well, take one of these others over. We'll let you have one too. Do your own thing. I have mixed feelings.
Well, what are your feelings?
Well, I think it'd be all right for a day or so.
But
not permanently.
Well, we was down here at the marina looking at a boat down there.
And Dean saw this plane flying over, and and he says, "Look at that!" And it was, it was kind of low to the ground. And before I could look around, to see the plane, there was a big old ball of fire, and it lit up the whole lake. You could see across the whole lake out there. And I looked around this way, and there was just a big old ball of orange flame, and it burned like that for a while. And then finally, the flames died down. You could see a mushroom cloud, and then so we just jumped in the car and come over here to see what it was.
The country, our country, must survive. First of all, you've got to face one basic truth. I am not an African, although I am of African heritage. I am an American, and some of the people that want to tell me to go back to Africa, where I came from, I can trace my lineage back further than they can. I was here first. Some of me were. So first of all, you got to accept the basic fact that a part of everything that is here is mine. I'm an American. This is America. This is my country. This is a part of my heritage. And so, as such, I must work to preserve it. As I shout freedom now, I've got to make sure that I've got a place to be free in. And I submit to you that this is mine.
Have we conceded a major point in saying, and I quote, a negotiated timetable for withdrawal of all American troops without putting an equal withdrawal of enemy troops on them?
I question whether or not I would have ever discontinued bombing way back. I question whether or not I would try to bring about a unilateral withdrawal of troops without any concession on the other side. Frankly, I'm not a hawk. I'm just a firm believer in American prestige, and I don't want to see American prestige thrown down the drain. I don't mean to say I want to see a lot more people killed, but none of us want that. But I just don't believe in concessions. I don't believe in putting us in a position of the other side thinking we're scared to carry on. I don't believe in us taking action that, in the eyes of the world, reduces us in character and influence in the world.
The questions are mostly on housing, transportation, and streets.
What's been the response so far from those 500 or so people that you've interviewed?
Well, the reception has been very good, but we're not in the tabulating part of the survey yet. But we do have a good reception.
I think the breakfast program was voted upon and favored upon so we can shed some light on the problem. It is, some people in Dallas and some people in our country don't think there are hungry people, and it's kind of a paradox in that the tremendous affluent society we have, the most affluent, plentiful country in the world, and we still have hungry people going to school every day and hungry people walking up and down the streets. And we wanted to shed some light on this as well as to fulfill a need.
it is right to feed these children. Some of these children, it's not their fault that their parents or their situation or their environment does not afford them a breakfast or a lunch.
The tidal wave of cheap textiles that are coming in the United States are causing very severe hardship to the textile industry and to the employees of those industries. Approximately 87,000 jobs have been lost in textiles and apparel since the first of this year. And the purpose of the legislation and the endorsement of the President is based on the belief that we would like the other countries that are shipping so heavily, countries in the Far East, to moderate that rate of growth so that we can prevent the loss of all of those jobs.
I think it takes quite a while because here the system is entirely different from what we did in Green Bay. People say, well, you're a defensive back, you're a cornerback, you're one-on-one coverage, but that's true, and that's only a little bit of it. There's certain combination defenses to be used. The linebackers are coming in different positions in the flat and the hook zone. You have to know this, and you have to put everything together, and it takes a while. I know in Green Bay it took me about 3 years to learn exactly what the defense was trying to do. And I think the big thing now that's saving me here is that my previous experience.
You know, there were a couple of plays Sunday in St. Louis in which you were most noticeable. Maybe we should talk about the second and not the first, or will you want to talk about both of them?
Talk about both.
Okay. I saw John Gilliam behind you at one time.
That wasn't the first time. He caught a touchdown pass on me last year in Green Bay. You know, I've been beaten, and I'll probably be beaten again, I'm sure. But I hang in there and forget about it because there's nothing you can do, and just try not to make the same mistake twice. So I guess that's confidence.
I guess that helps, doesn't it?
It has to.
Herb, how about the interception? Was that a situation that, were you into one-on-one coverage then?
Yes, it was the same type of pattern, as a matter of fact. And on the first one, as I was going down the field, I looked up maybe a little too soon, but as you're going down the field, when you're covering a receiver, sometimes while you're doing it, you have to look up, and usually the crowd tells me when to look up, because I can hear the crowd, like, yelling, and I figure the ball's in the air, either the quarterback has been knocked down. So I looked up, and the ball's over top of my head, and I said, well, that's it, you know, nothing to do.
It was the biggest hero's welcome in Fort Worth since Allen Bean Day of last year. Miss America, Phyllis George of Denton, arrived at Meacham Field just before noon to the sound of music and welcome home placards of friends and family. At a luncheon in the Fort Worth Club, several hundred people gathered for Miss America's formal homecoming. The noon festivities included Yellow Roses and songs from Miss Texas, Belinda Myrick. At a press conference this afternoon, Phyllis answered the typical Miss America questions. One reporter asked if she favored keeping the swimsuit competition a part of the national pageant.
I've heard pros and cons about it, and I think there are advantages to it and there are disadvantages to it. And I would really have to sit down and discuss, this with a lot of people before I made a comment, because I know a lot of the men enjoy this part of the pageant, because for some reason or another, I don't know why.
For Fort Worth, the Phyllis George celebration ends tomorrow. That is tomorrow night with a gala ball at Shady Oaks Country Club. Jim Green, Channel 8 News on the Move, Fort Worth.
What I think has happened is, of course, we all knew that we weren't going to be able to stay at the level that
we had planned to stay at. I mean, not that we had planned to stay at, but we had originally been funded shortly before the lunar landing. We knew we were going to come down. I don't think any of us imagined we were going to come down quite this far, and it looks like maybe we haven't seen the bottom of it yet. But space exploration is with us forever now. Man has shown that he can do this, and he shows that there are great benefits. Man being the sort of inquisitive animal he is, he'll always press out on new frontiers, and we have one right here, probably the biggest one that humanity's ever seen. And so even though we're at a low part of the budget right now, I think that we're going to curve upward, and maybe next year, I kind of doubt it, and year after next, something like that, as people sit back and reflect on what benefits they've received from the space program.
What is your reaction to President Nixon's peace proposal?
Well, I, like all Americans, listen with great interest. I can only hope and pray that the President's peace proposal will be effective. I have backed the President on all of his proposals in regard to Vietnam. Now, I would like to think that what he has suggested will work. Frankly, I think that most of it has been considered by the North Vietnamese before. The thing that concerns me really the most is the problem that we have with our prisoners of war.
I do not propose that the county of Dallas assume the responsibility of issuing stamps. I don't want any part of it. I would hope that when we approve the food stamp program, it would be the state. And we will pay, I don't know what portion of it is, I believe it's 75% of that cost.
If you did have a problem with sidewalks, do you know who to call to have it corrected?
No, I never thought about it.
If you called, how successful do you believe you would be in getting the problem corrected under column B? Give me the number and the statement.
Well, I think there again, number 3 would be corrected after several calls.
Have you ever called the city about a problem concerning street repairs?
No, I haven't.
How do you feel about creek flooding in your neighborhood? Do you have any problem with creek flooding?
No, we haven't.
What number and statement would that be?
That would be number 1, no, it's not a problem.
If you had a problem with creek flooding, do you know who to call to have it corrected?
No, I don't.
And if you called, how successful do you think you would be in getting the problem corrected?